Hello everyone. Welcome to this module where we are going to discuss dedicatedly about AWS Lambda. So this is important topic. Few of the questions come into the exam also from this particular topic. So let us try to understand what is Lambda. So basically it is a compute service that is being provided to us by AWS. Just like we have EC2 instances for our virtual machine, we have Fargate for running our containers. So we have Lambda over here for running our code. So let us see what topics we are going to cover over here. So we would be understanding what is Lambda, what is the difference between EC2 and Lambda. On different features, we are going to differentiate between them. What is the life cycle of Lambda? And what is a Lambda handler function? So because we are going to write the code, then Lambda handler function is the function which gets initialized or invoked when the Lambda is being executed. This is the first thing that gets initialized or invoked. So what is Lambda? It is nothing but a serverless compute service which is provided to us by AWS. Now, when I say serverless, it means that it allows you to run the code without provisioning or managing your servers. So Lambda runs your code on high available compute infrastructure, and it will perform all administration of the compute resources, including server and operating system management, patching, scaling, logging. Everything will be done, but in the back end, we do not have to worry about that. What we have to do is we have to simply supply our code. So we can write our code into different programming languages such as Python, Java, Node.js, C#. And this is basically event-based system. Okay. So just like, EC2, we can run the EC2 instances all the time. But Lambda is getting invoked. When I say invoke, it means that it will run when something is happening. So when some event occurs, then the Lambda would be running in response to that event. Those events can be anything such as HTTP request. It can be any change in data in S3 bucket or any kind of updates to database. There are so many triggers for the Lambda. So we have understood in the S3 module about event notification. That was when anything is being changed into S3. Either some object is being added, if the version is being restored, if some object is being deleted. Any of such event can be sent as notification, right? So this event notification, one of the target for this event notification was Lambda. So if I want to invoke my Lambda function in response to any event which is happening in S3, then it is possible. So when to use Lambda? What are the use cases? So use cases means this would be, ideal compute service where you want to scale up rapidly and when you want to scale down to zero when not in demand. Okay, I want to scale down to zero or I want to scale up rapidly. Now, because this is running in response to some events, okay, that's why we would be just paying for the time the Lambda function is running. I will not pay for the infrastructure here. I'll pay for the duration for which my Lambda function is running. Right. So let's say that my code requires 5 minutes to run. So I will be just paying for those 5 minutes. Okay. I will not pay for the infrastructure. Just like in EC2, we have to pay on hourly basis. Right. Till the time the EC2 is running, I have to pay either on hourly or the per second basis. But here, I don't have to keep my Lambda function, always running. it would be just invoked when some event happens, and this will give us the truly pay-per-use model because it is a serverless compute. So we were talking about the use cases. So use cases here can be file processing. Suppose we have some files on S3. So if we want to process those files in real time after upload, okay, if file is getting uploaded to S3, then if I want to process it, then I can use Lambda for it. In event notification as well, we have taken the example that if I want to convert my JPEG file to the thumbnail size, then I can do it. The next is stream processing. We can use Lambda and Kinesis together to process real-time streaming data for activity tracking, transaction order processing, clickstream analysis, for social media analysis, or IoT device telemetry data. So in that case also we can be using Lambda. We can use Lambda for building the web applications. So we can combine Lambda with other AWS services to build powerful web application that automatically scale up and scale down and run in highly available environment across multiple data centers. So at that time also Lambda can be useful. For the mobile backends, so if you want to build the backends using the Lambda and API gateway, then also we can use it, and it would be a very good use case over there. So Lambda manages the compute fleet that will offer a balance between memory, CPU, network, and other resources to run your code. What you have to do, you have to just give the code to Lambda and it will work. So let us now try to understand the difference between EC2 and the Lambda. So if we see over here, we know that Lambda is a serverless thing. And EC2 is actually the infrastructure that we are maintaining. It is infrastructure as a service. And Lambda is a serverless. I do not have to provision anything in it. I do not have to worry about the backend infrastructure. So provisioning would be automatic here, and we have to manually provision EC2 because we have to say that what type of EC2 we want to use, what is the memory that we want, right? Compute capacity, it will scale automatically as per incoming request, but here the compute capacity is fixed. If I am using T2, right, it will be giving me a fixed amount of vCPUs and fixed amount of memory. Now, if I want to scale in and scale out, then I have to create auto scaling group for that. Okay. But into AWS Lambda, that would be automatically handled. I don't have to create such kind of auto scaling groups also. So what would be the billing? So billing, we would be paying per number of requests, or the number of time the Lambda is invoked, or duration. And duration, sorry, I'll not say or. So as many requests are coming to Lambda, we would be paying for that, and we would be paying for the time duration in which till which the Lambda is running. And here we would be paying per use on the instance type and the duration. Like if I'm having T2 micro, and if it is active for 3 hours, then I'll be paying for 3 hours. If you look at the startup time, then cold startup times are there in Lambda. We would be discussing about this cold startup time into the life cycle of Lambda. So it takes time. If our functions are not, invoked concurrently or frequently, then the cold time starts we would be facing the cold start times. But in instance, it will take several minutes to boot up depending on the size and the type of the instance that we are using. Scaling would be automatic based on incoming request, and here we have to scale according to auto scaling policies. Operating system and software, we have limited control over there because we are not worried about the backend infrastructure. but we have complete control over the operating system and the softwares that we want to install on EC2. This gives us high control. AWS will manage the infrastructure and underlying softwares for Lambda, but here customer is responsible for that because it is infrastructure as a service. The use cases would be, it is good for running small function that needs to be executed quickly, whereas EC2 for long running processes, for large applications like, it can be used as our web servers or application servers or database servers. Right. So it supports variety of programming languages and can be used or integrated with multiple AWS services. Now, if we look at EC2, then it will offer more flexibility in terms of, configurations and customizing our code, writing code into different languages, and we also have the control on our infrastructure. Now, into the use case, you might have seen that it says executing small functions, right? Why so? Because till now everything seems greener on the Lambda side, but there are limitations to Lambda as well. So the Lambda function will run maximum of 15 minutes of time, and it can be given 10 GB of memory. Okay, so one Lambda function, when I'm invoking, it will run maximum for 15 minutes of time, then it will stop. So if your process is going more than 15 minutes of time, then this is not ideal for that. Okay, and we have just 10 GB of memory with us. So these are few limitations of Lambda. Now, let us see that what is the Lambda lifecycle policy. So when we talk about the policy, the Lambda lifecycle. So when we talk about Lambda lifecycle, we have 4 stages over there. We have downloading the code, initializing the environment, invoking the function, and shutting down our Lambda. So out of these 4, these 2 phases are under cold start. So when this life cycle will start, whenever our Lambda function is being invoked, at that time our life cycle will be starting. The next thing is invoking the function and shutting down. So this basically is our warm start. So when I say download the code, what will happen? When we upload our code to the Lambda function, okay, if something is abstract at this point of time, don't worry, we would be looking at this on the portal as well. Okay, you will be getting a better understanding. So when we download the code over here, it means that whenever we put the code or when we upload the code for Lambda, the Lambda would be storing the code into S3 and it will encrypt it at rest. Okay. So when we are invoking that Lambda, then it will first download the code from S3. Right. Then after, it will initialize the environment. So initializing the environment means Lambda will invoke your function in a secure isolated container created according to the resources defined by the configuration that we would have given. Okay. Then Lambda will load the code into memory that is to be run. And the Lambda runtime manages the resources required to run the function and support the lifecycle of functions runtime. So the process of creating and mounting the environment, it is called as cold start. After the environment is set up, the Lambda retains the environment and is able to handle the request. So that's why the invocation of the Lambda function after the environment exists is known as warm start. So till the time we have given that, okay, this much of time we are giving to the Lambda function. So Lambda function handler would be running at this point of time when we are invoking the function. And lastly, it will shut the Lambda down. So it will remove the environment totally. So after shutting down of the Lambda, if some new request is coming, then it again has to start from the cold start. So it will download the code again, it will create the environment, then it will come to the warm start. So this is our Lambda life cycle that is followed when the Lambda function is being invoked by any of the event. The next thing that we have to discuss over here is Lambda handler. So if we talk about handler, then it is a function which will act as an entry point. Okay. So if we are writing the code for Lambda, what we said that we just have to give the code to our Lambda function. So into that code, we would be creating one function called as Lambda handler. And that Lambda handler is the entry point. So whenever any Lambda is invoked in response to the event, the first thing that it will search for is Lambda handler function. So when the Lambda function is triggered, the AWS Lambda will pass the event to the handler function. Whatever event happened, okay, it will be passed to the Lambda function. It will process that event and return a response. So this Lambda handler function has two arguments, event object and optional context object. So if we talk about the event object, then let's suppose that event object basically means that it will contain all the details of the event that invoked your Lambda function. Okay, it will contain all the data and the metadata your Lambda function will require to drive its logic. For example, if the trigger for Lambda is S3, that if any new object is created in S3, then invoke the Lambda function. Then this event object would be having all the details about the buckets and the new object that got created. Like what is the bucket name? Okay. What is the object name? When did the event happen? What is the content of object? All of that would be the part of event object. When we talk about the context object, it is the optional thing. It can be used or it cannot be, okay? So the context object allows your function code to interact with Lambda runtime environment. So the contents and the structure of the content object will be varying according to the language that you are using for your Lambda function. So it will contain, the timeout. It will contain the information about timeout. Timeout means how much time is remaining before your function timeout happens. So we know that, right? That we have Lambda function running for 15 minutes. If you want to change that configuration, if you say that run the Lambda function for 5 minutes, that is fine. You can change it on the portal. But by default, it will be 15 minutes, right? Maximum it can run is for 15 minutes of time. So how much time is remaining before the timeout happens can be received from this context object. Then we can have the logging information. So each language runtime will provide the stream log statements to the CloudWatch log. So the context object would be containing the information about which CloudWatch log stream your log statements are being sent to. So these are the two arguments that we have. Now let us see the example of this. So you can see this is the example for our Lambda. This is written in Python programming language. So what are we doing? We are importing the JSON from here. Okay. When we are importing the JSON, we are saying define the Lambda handler. So see, this is the function that I was talking about. This is the front door. whenever the lambda is getting executed, the very first thing it will search in the code is lambda handler function. Now, what other things we have over here? We have two arguments, event and context, that we just now discussed. So event would be having details about all the events, right? It depends up to what is invoking the lambda function. If it is HTTP request, then it would be having different contents. If S3 is invoking lambda, then it would be having different contents, right? And the context object would be having the details about the lambda runtime environment. How much time is left before timeout happens? What is the log details? Okay, such details would be there into this context object. Now this is a simple code where we are saying if the status code is 200, it means that if everything is successful, then we want to response, like in the response, once the lambda function is successfully executed, in the response, we would be sending status code 200 and body would be hello world. And we are returning this response. So we can also test these lambda functions into the console, right? So that is possible to locally test this and understand whether everything is working fine or not. So this is all about the lambda function. Okay, we started with what is lambda, what is the difference between lambda and EC2, what is the life cycle of this, and lastly we understood about the lambda handling. Now let us see and create the lambda function on our portal. Okay, so I am on my AWS console and we would be going to our lambda, right? So let's get to the lambda function console. We're just creating one basic lambda demo over here. One more important thing that you have to understand is whenever we are running the lambda code, okay, we have to give the IAM role to the lambda, because if lambda is invoked by S3, okay, then S3 should be allowed to invoke lambda function. That is one thing. If any object is being uploaded to S3, then it wants to invoke the lambda function, then S3 should be having the permissions to invoke the lambda function. Okay. And if lambda, while processing that data, if lambda wants to connect to any other services like DynamoDB or say RDS, then lambda should be having that role attached to it so that it can access the backend services like DynamoDB or RDS. So permissions would always be there. The function or the services, internally also cannot be communicating with each other. Right. So without permissions, nothing will happen over here. So we are on to the lambda. We will go to functions and we'll create a new function over here. So you can use the blueprints over here, the sample codes, which are available for common scenarios. So you can go with the blueprint. You can select the container image as well to deploy your function using that image. Or you can author with the Scratch, which is a simple hello world example. So let's see if in blueprint, what do we have? So in blueprint, we have the microservice that interacts with DynamoDB. We can get the object from S3. We can have hello world function, right? All these different blueprints are available. So for the, common use cases, these things are already available over here. So what I'll do is I will be simply going with the hello world function in Python. Right. So we have to give the function name here. So let's say demo function is what I'm naming this. The runtime is Python 3.7 because here we have already specified that. Do you want the execution role? See, so we have to give the permissions for the function. Okay, right now we do not have to give any permissions because it is not interacting with any of the services. But when it is interacting with the services, then we have to create the role. So basically, I can create a new role with basic Lambda functions. We can use existing roles, or we can create new role according to our policy templates also. So right now I do not want to do this. I'll just go with the basic Lambda permissions as I'm not interacting with any of other services. So this is what will happen when we are using the code. This is the Lambda code that will get executed. So it will print loading function and then it will print the values which is received in the event over here. Okay, you can see from the event it is getting or fetching the value key 1, key 2, key 3. So when are we going to give this values while testing our Lambda? We will be providing these values. Okay, so that's it. You can click on create function. So demo function is created. Okay, if you want to change its code and configuration, we can do it. Right now it is just a simple hello world thing. But if you want to add the triggers, you can add the triggers from here. See. So you can select your source that what should be invoking this Lambda function. You can have API gateway, AWS IoT, CloudFront. Okay, these are all the different triggers that you can have. Not only AWS trigger, but you also have partner event sources. Okay, these are all the partner event sources from which you can invoke your Lambda function. As of now, I don't want to give any of the triggers for this. You can add the destination if you want. Okay, that what should be the final output given by Lambda function to be stored at. So you can give the destination as well. So this is our code. You can see it over here. If you want to test it, you can go here and test it. Now in the code, you can see you can upload your code as well. So you get this IDE or environment here for writing your code, but if you want to upload it from the zip file or S3 location, then also you can. So the long codes that we are going to write will be generally uploading it from the S3. So we can test it over here. For testing, we have to create one event. Okay, so let's create one event. We will be calling it as event 1. Event will be the private event. Okay, and it is the hello world template that we have. And into this, we have to give the values over here. So let's say I'm giving the values like Jay, Shruti, and Roy. If these are the 3 values I'm giving, okay, we have to save this test event. So once it is saved, we can select this event and we can click on test. So the execution was successful. In the details, if you see, you will get Jai. Why? Because into the code, we have said that return the event of key 1. Okay. So this is what it would be returning to us after the execution, but it will print all the things, loading the function, value 1, value 2, value 3, and lastly it will be returning us in the response Jai. So this is how you can create your Lambda function and test it over here. This is the simple example. You can just play around with it and create, more than this as well. So you can see the monitoring in the CloudWatch metrics as well. Apart from that, you have the configuration details over here. So if there are any triggers, you can add the triggers from here as well. Okay, from the top also you can add the triggers or you can add the triggers here. Permissions, you can see that we have this demo function role attached to it, which is having 3 actions and 2 resource permissions. So we have given the permissions for creating the log streams and log groups, and we have also given the permission to put the logs into the CloudWatch. Okay, Next, if you see, one more important thing I wanted to show you here. Under general configuration, you can see that the timeout time is 3 seconds. So this timeout can go up to 15 minutes. The memory allocated right now is 128 MB, but it can go up to 10 GB. Okay. So this is it for the Lambda function, and you can create your own Lambda function. You can have it, in the web application also. This is very important. So you can also use this Lambda function in microservice architecture. That will also help. So you can just run your specific functionality on the Lambda function and it will work fine. Right. So that's it for this module, everyone. We have understood what is Lambda, what is the difference between EC2 and Lambda. And apart from that, we understood the life cycle of the Lambda and the Lambda handlet. So we would be concluding the video over here. Thank you so much.